So in this example, they give me a huge polynomial, and the only thing they tell me is that 5i is a 0. Now I could go through the rational zero test, but I really don't want to deal with 750 and all of its factors and trying to guess and check. So I'm going to use what they gave me as a 0 of 5i, so that means x minus 5i is a factor. But remember, if that's a factor, then its conjugate is also another factor. And then when you multiply that together, if I FOIL this, I'm going to end up with x squared plus 5ix minus 5ix minus 25i squared. And the middle terms cancel out, and that leaves me with x squared plus 25 because I squared equals -1. So as this is a 0, I know that the conjugate is also a 0. So my x squared plus 25 will divide evenly into my polynomial. Now I can't use synthetic division here because I have a quadratic. So I'm going to use long division. So just make sure everything's in order. I've got my 3x to the 5th plus 2x to the 4th plus 52x cubed plus 20x squared minus 575x minus 750. And I'm going to divide by x squared plus 25. Now I'm also going to put a placeholder here. It just helps keep everything a little more organized. So I'm going to start looking at how many times does x squared go into 3x to the 5th? Or what do I need to multiply by? And that's going to be 3x to the 3rd. So when I multiply this by the divisor, I end up with 3x to the 5th plus 0x to the 4th plus 75x cubed. And then I'm going to subtract, which will make my leading term cancel out, and I end up with 2x to the 4th minus 23x cubed. Bring down the next term and start over. X squared goes into 2x to the 4th. I'm going to have to multiply by 2x squared. So that'll give me 2x to the 4th plus 0x cubed plus 50x squared. And then I'm going to subtract. And that will leave me with negative 23x cubed minus 30x squared. Bring down my next term. So I need to multiply by a negative 23x to get the negative 23x cubed plus 0x squared plus, or it'll be minus 25 times 23 is actually 575, which is nice. So I have 575x, subtract again, and that leaves me with negative 30x squared minus 0x, and go ahead and put that in there for a placeholder, and then bring down the minus 750. So I need to multiply by a negative 30. And that'll give me a negative 30x squared minus or plus 0x minus 750. Now, if you don't end up with a 0 remainder, when you subtract, sorry, I forgot to change my signs. When you subtract, you did something wrong because you started out knowing that this was evenly dividing into your polynomial. So if in this case, if your remainder is not 0, then you need to go back and check your signs. Okay, so now I've got a cubic function that's a little easier to work with. And now I can use my PQ test and do the factors of 30 over the factors of 3. Or if you want to, you can just start, -1 and 1 is going to be 1, 3 and -3. So you can just start, I'm just going to try -1. And again, this is just guessing and checking. This is not going to work because I end up with 22. So that one doesn't work. Let's try +1. I don't think it's going to work either, but we can try it. It will not work either. So let's try 3. So if I use 3, it's actually going to work this time. So 3 worked, which means I've started with a 5th root, factored out the 2 complex factors, found another factor of 3, so I'm left with a quadratic. And here you can try to factor it or use the quadratic formula. I'm going to factor it. It's actually not too bad. And you can use the method we learned in chapter 2 to factor, where you do the 3 times the 10 and then do it by grouping. I'm just going to guess and check. If I need an 11 in the middle. So I think if a 2 there and a 5 there will give me 5x and 6x. Yes, that will work. So then set them equal to 0. So here I have -5 over 3, and here I have -2. So just to recap, I've got 5 and -5i and -5i, 3, -5/3, and -2 are all my zeros for this function. So don't get frustrated as you're doing these. Sometimes you might get lucky and get the 0 on the first try. Sometimes it might take you 4 or 5 tries before you find one, but it happens to everybody. So don't think you're doing anything wrong. If you've run through all of them and cannot find one, go back and recheck for sign errors. Or if you find one and can't find another, try dividing again by that same 0 and see if it's a repeated 0. And again, let me know if you need any help.